Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice for radio. So today, we're going to be having a look at a deck which I am reliably informed is seeing quite a bit of hype over in Japan. Now, I have been showing you a bunch of Japanese decks lately, and I intend showing you a whole bunch more. The lovely Code64X on Twitter has been hooking us up rather nicely indeed, and I love him for it. A quick reminder that these are always winning decks. These are not decks which might be good or any of that rubbish. These are decks which have won and are seeing success. But of all the ones that Code64 has shared with us, this is the one that he has told us is seeing quite a bit of hype. And it all revolves around Aerodactyl. You see, Aerodactyl doesn't play very well with EXs and GXs. In fact, what it actually does, for free colorless energy, 180 damage just so long as you do not have any Pokemon EX or GX on your bench. So if you're going to be playing an Aerodactyl deck, you'd best not be relying on any EX or GX Pokemon. Cool. And here's the thing, right? I've been showing you a lot of these Japanese decks lately, and Team GXs are proving very, very good. Latias and Latios was the previous video I showed you on this channel, and that was the 5th out of 6 Team GXs that had actually come around in a winning deck. When was the last time you saw every GX in a set being featured in a winning deck within the first couple of months of legality? Well, we're talking the first couple of weeks, and they're all proving to be good. And then we've got the old favourites. We've got Blacephalon decks. They're not going anywhere. And we've got Zoroark decks. They're not going anywhere. EX and GX decks and Team GX decks are good. So the theory here is very simple. We are going to try and trade favourably. We're going to be trying to take down EX and GX decks that give up 2 prizes and Team GX decks that give up 3 prizes with a deck with a main Pokemon that only gives up 1. The only problem is, Aerodactyl is not the easiest Pokemon to use. Firstly, you can't play any EX or GX Pokemon. Not the end of the world. We've got, well, I'm going to spoil the surprise. We've got Jirachi, more on that in a moment. But the other thing is that you need to use Unidentified Fossil. You see, the problem is here that Aerodactyl is a Stage 1, but Aerodactyl is not your ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill Stage 1. You've got to evolve it from Unidentified Fossil. Not the most annoying thing in the world, but it means you've got to get your Unidentified Fossil out, and you can't search them out with something like an Ultra Ball or a Nest Ball, because it's not a Pokemon until it actually hits the field. So it's far more difficult to actually search out Unidentified Fossil. Now, we are playing one copy of Fossil Excavation Map, which can help you to get these out, and that's lovely. What it allows you to do is grab yourselves an Unidentified Fossil from either your deck or your discard pile and put it into your hand. But it's not as easy as just being able to use an Ultra Ball, if I'm honest with you. But then we're off and rolling, and in theory here, if you can just keep getting your Aerodactyl up and rolling, you can be trading very, very favourably. Now, the numbers here are important. So against GX decks like Blacephalon, for instance, you're hitting 180, you're getting a straight one-hit KO, you're fine. Against something like a Zoroark, you're hitting 180, but you add a choice band, and then you're up to 210 and you get a KO. Against something like a Buzzwole, you'll need Shrine of Punishment, and then you'll get a KO, because that puts 1 damage counter on EXs and GXs between turns. And the other thing to remember here is that using Shrine of Punishment, by this deck's very nature, you're not playing any GXs, so a stadium that puts 1 damage counter on each EX and GX between turns sounds pretty good to me. And that can build up over the course of several turns, and then you can just get things into range. Something like a Gardevoir at 230 is in theory a little bit out of your range because you're hitting a max 220, but having said that, 2 Shrine of Punishment and you'll take it down. It's not the most difficult thing in the world. Oh yeah, and I know we're ruining the surprise a little bit, but it's kind of got to be mentioned here. We're playing Professor Kukui. So actually, we're now up to 240, 180, 30 for Choice Band is 210, Shrine of Punishment is 220, Professor Kukui is 240. Because where we run into problems here is Tag Team GXs. So Celebi and Venusaur sitting there with 270, or Eevee and Snorlax also 270, or if you really want to get up there, Magikarp and Wailord with 300, yeah, they're kind of out of your range a little bit. But first of all, you've got Shrine of Punishment, and second of all, we know that these bigger decks tend to be playing stuff like Ace Roller and sometimes Max Potion. But remember, you're giving up one prize and they're giving up 3. You can afford to have them heal a couple of times throughout the game and still have the prize race go in your favour. There might be a slight issue when you get up to the really high HPs and they can heal, but outside of that, it seems like you'll be doing rather well here. Now, in terms of other Pokemon, the big one is Jirachi. When it's in the active, you get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card and put it into your hand. This is what gives you the consistency that you would otherwise be missing in a deck like this, where you can't be playing stuff like Tapu Lele for fairly obvious reasons. We also see Malamar here, and Malamar is very, very important, because this is an attack for 3 colourless energy. Now you can use double colourless and that will give you 2 of the free energy. You need the third, that's where Malamar comes in. Now don't get me wrong, you can just use Malamar here and that's fine. But it's quite nice to actually be able to have double colourless and 1 Malamar rather than having to rely on 2 Malamar and just a psychic energy from your hand. We also see a Ditto Prism Star here. Now this is incredibly important in this deck because it is the only basic you can search for normally that can evolve into Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl evolves from Unidentified Fossil, but Ditto can evolve into any stage 1. That includes Aerodactyl. It's vital here. Although you can also use it for Malamar if you so wish. We see 1 copy of Giratina. The ability that spreads a bit of extra damage is nice, but generally speaking, this works with Malamar and accelerating energy, and it does 130, which gets 1-hit KOs on stuff like Buzzwole. It's nice to have a non-GX that can hit 130 on other non-GXs. We see a Lunala Prism Star here. I like Lunala Prism Star. I've always been a fan of this in any Malamar deck. 1 psychic energy, and for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play, you get to accelerate a psychic energy from the discard. So if they've got 5 Pokemon in play, 5 energy from the discard. This is really nice just for getting that 1 turn, boom, now I've got 3 Aerodactyl up and rolling. I am a big fan of this. And 1 copy of Onix. Yeah, that's right, the one that I was roundly mocked for making a video about, and yet it's seeing a lot of play. It does 120 for 4 colourless energy. We're playing Malamar, we're playing DCE, so that works quite nicely. But you're hitting weakness on Pikachu and Zekrom, Tag Team GX. And you're hitting weakness on Eevee and Snorlax, Tag Team GX. And you're hitting weakness on Zoroark. Eevee and Snorlax, you'll need a choice band. The others just go down straight away. It hits a lot of relevant Pokemon for weakness, and it's a really good option. And we'll have a quick look at the trainers here, but there's really not very much to add. You're playing 4 Unidentified Fossil because you've got to evolve into Aerodactyl. You're playing 4 Ultra Ball and 1 Nest Ball just to get your Pokemon out. Nest Ball is not quite so good in a deck like this because of Unidentified Fossil, but you can only play 4 Ultra Ball. 3 copies of Escape Board to allow Jirachi to have free retreat after using the ability. 1 copy of Fossil Excavation Map to get your Unidentified Fossil like we talked about. Couple of Choice Band for the extra damage. A Rescue Stretcher to recover your Pokemon. 4 Guzma. Now partly this is for dragging Pokemon active and KOing them, but partly it's nice as a switching card. Remember, you want to be switching Jirachi into the active as often as you can, because it's phenomenal when it's in the active. Couple copies of Lily and 4 copies of Cynthia because they are the 2 best draw supporters we've got at the moment. A couple copies of Professor Kukui. It gets you 2 extra cards, which is nice, but it's largely for the damage. And 3 copies of Shrine of Punishment, as we mentioned earlier, for the extra damage. This is a really fun deck. I worry about some of the really huge decks that have healing, and I worry against non-GX decks. But against GX decks, this seems phenomenal, and against most Tag Team GX decks, or any Tag Team GX deck that can't heal a lot, this seems wonderful. It's very specific. Non-GXs, you're struggling to hit the damage, and Tag Team GXs, you might struggle to get quite as high as you want. But with Jirachi for consistency, giving up 1 prize per KO, and just rolling after the first turn or two to set up, this just looks good. I like this deck. But I would like to know if you like this deck. And you can tell me in the comment section. Do make sure you go nuts, but please also remember to do the most important thing. And be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays for some more Wassy action. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.